Please stand, and Mr. John, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is the Planning and Zoning Board / Local Planning Agency. It's an advisory board which makes recommendations to the county commissioners who will make the final decisions on all these items. Item G5 is an LPA item. Items on today's agenda will be heard by the county commission on May 2nd at 5 p.m. When a motion ends in any kind of a split vote, a roll call vote may be taken to ensure accuracy. As a reminder, each member who makes a motion or a second needs to turn their microphone on so that your voice is on the record. Speakers for public comment on agenda items will be given 2 minutes. At this time, if any board member has had any ex parte communication regarding any application, please disclose so now.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms. Deb first. Ladies
On
first, John.
G5, I spoke with Jimmy Dunn from Centera Communities. He called and introduced himself and gave me a little bit of an introduction on what they're planning over there, and lasted about 3 minutes.
Okay. Mr. John.
I also had a call, but I declined to listen and to meet with the person.
Okay. All right. Staff, are we good with those?
Yes, sir, no issues.
All right, I need a motion for the approval of the P&Z minutes from March 18th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Henry, a second by Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Okay, item G1.
Mr. Chair, before we start into the agenda, I just have a comment to make. If anybody is out in the audience to speak for or against item G5, there is a sign-in sheet back in the back with Trina. If you plan to make any comments, please fill that out for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Item G1, please.
Yes, item G1, Christopher Strozier, request change the zoning classification from RU-1-9 to RU-1-11. Application number is 23Z00086, and tax account number is 2104016, located in District 1. And like the board to know that this has been re-advertised to the correct date of April 15th for today and May 2nd for the county commission meeting.
Okay, is the applicant here? Yes, sir. If you could come up to the podium there and get as close as you can, sir, to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Strozier. Well, how y'all doing today?
Good.
Christopher Strozier, 2940 Hobbs Place, Titusville, Florida.
And a little bit, sir, Mr. Christopher, about what you're wanting to do.
I'm trying to change the my zoning from R1. I'm trying to build a residential home, trying to change from R1 to 111. And I think in 1960 the land was subdivided, so it don't meet the qualifications right now to where I need it to be.
For a single-family residence?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Christopher, you hold on right there with us. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Mr. Christopher, that is great news. You don't even... Seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Has anyone got any questions for our applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Ron.
I move that we recommend approval of zoning change.
And I second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Henry on item G1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Sir, that passed unanimously.
I thank y'all very much.
All right,
Y'all have
thank
a blessed day.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
question for staff. How will this affect the neighbors? Are they all going to have to change too?
Not necessarily. It all depends on if they have structures on the property, then we have different parameters as whether it could be viewed as a non-conforming lot of record.
There was something in the in the staff report that this particular one was non-conforming, it's vacant land,
Correct.
but all the neighbors have been built out, so,
Some of them have. So if there's a structure on a property, then that would be viewed as a conforming lot, because at some point in the past that we've recognized it as a conforming lot for whatever reason.
okay. What if there's, they want to do a renovation or something, would you hold them up?
No, not for
Good.
renovation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, John. Item G2, please.
Item G2, Jonathan and Emily Schoolfield request a change of zoning classification from AU to RRMH1, application number 24Z00001, tax account number 2443960, District 1.
Okay, is the applicant here? Sir, same thing. If you could get as close as you could to that microphone and state your name and address for the record,
Jonathan Schoolfield, 1337 Royal Birkdale Circle, Rockledge.
and a little bit of why you're wanting to do this.
We have picked out a house we want to put on there, and it's a manufactured home, and I can't change my wife's mind on what to do, and so it's a beautiful home, and we want to put it on that property, so.
All right. If you could stay put right there. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
And I'll second that.
I think, Logan, you were first on the second, correct? All right, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Logan. All those in favor on item G2, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Okay, item G3.
Item G3 is William and Jeanette Gonedridge request a change of zoning classification from RR-1 to AUL and the removal of an existing BDP. Application number is 24Z00003. Tax account number is 2000372, located in District 1.
Okay, is the applicant here? Same thing, sir. I sound like a broken record, I know, but you got to state your name and address for the record.
My name is William Gonedridge. My address is 9610 Woodland Ridge Drive, Tampa, Florida.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do, Mr.
Well,
Williams.
currently the property's RR1. I'd like the AU so I could build an agricultural building in the back.
Okay. And sir, while you're right there, is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. Since there's no principal structure, what's the purpose of the barn?
To put in agricultural equipment. I have a tractor.
Oh, okay. Is that tractor for your business, or is it?
No, sir, personal use.
Okay. You'd be willing to loan it to somebody?
Talk to you later.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change and the removal of the existing BDP.
All right, let's hold on that first motion. Mr. John, you said you have a comment?
No, I have a question. I did not receive a copy of the BDP in my package. You know how much I love BDP.
It's the removal of the BDP, just for the board's edification. The BDP limited the development of the property under the RR1 to 2 lots. So this request would remove that restriction to 2 lots and the ability to have agricultural uses on the property limited to the light part of it.
All right.
Second the motion.
1 second, Mr. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, Logan, did I hear a second? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Logan on item G3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Thank you. And here again, ladies and gentlemen, we are just an advisory board to the county commissioners. These decisions are not final. The county commissioners might make the final decisions. So, item G4.
Yes, item G4, Suzanne Cook requests a conditional use permit for a guest house in an RU-1-13 single-family residential zoning classification. Application number is 24Z00007. Tax account number is 2431745 in District 2.
And ma'am, you must be the applicant, and if you could get as close as you can to that microphone and state your name and address for the record, please. You can pull it down.
Thank
Yes.
you. My name is Suzanne Cook. I live at 1270 North Banana River Drive on Merritt Island.
Okay, and a little bit about why you're wanting to do this.
The reason is I'd like to put in a B&B. It would give me an extra income. The way the economy is, we never, everything's going up.
Right.
So I'm away from my neighbors. My neighbors agree that it wouldn't be a problem to them.
We're going to find out about that in just a minute.
Okay. Well, I have a church on one side, and I have neighbors on the other, and we all get along famously.
Good deal. Ma'am, while you stay right there, is there anybody in the audience want to speak for or against this item? That's good news. See, no one's here to speak against it.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I heard some statements in there that's not factual. I just want to let the applicant know that the guest houses, you can't rent out. They have to be for family members only. So you can't do an Airbnb with a guest house.
Well, kind of, that's what I'm looking for.
Well, with that zoning, correct me if I'm right or wrong, Jeff, what you're saying with the zoning, you cannot do that. It's a B&B. Is there a difference? Bread and breakfast?
What it is that using a guest house has conditions that cannot be rented out. It has to be only for your guest or for your family members. Also, the property does not allow for them to do a short-term rental of less than 90 days if they have, like they're renting out their house or something.
I see you coming, sir.
Good afternoon, Board. I believe this is new information for us,
Okay.
from the applicant. So I think at this point, staff would request that we table this to the next meeting to give us an opportunity to work with the applicant to see if we can come up with a better application for their purposes or something along that lines.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to table.
Second.
Bruce, I'm sorry. Okay, we have a motion to table this item and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we're going to table it for now and give you some time to get with staff to see if they can work out the details.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Oh, Kim, I'm sorry. Item G5, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I read this, let me read the item into the record. So item G5 is Gen Florida 48 LLC requests a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment 2023-2 to change the future land use designation from Res 1 to 2.5 to Res 4 and community commercial. The application number is 23LS00001. Tax account numbers is 3000277, 3000368, 3000827, 3000829, located in District 5. So before I turn this item over, this is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment. We haven't had one of these in a while. So this is a two-step process where the application before you is a land use change that if the Board of County Commissioners decides to transmit this up, it goes to the state and the coordinated review with the Florida Commerce and all the other state agencies to provide comments and back. So once this comes back from the state, the applicant will have time to address any of those comments and responses. And then when it comes back for adoption, the associated PUD will dovetail with the adoption hearing for this application in the PUD. This application before you only establishes a density based on the infrastructure requirements. It's not based on a plan. It's not based on specific requirements for the PUD as far as buffering and cross sections and whatnot. That will be done at a later stage.
We are only going to vote on density.
The application request before you is a density increase
Correct.
to Res 4 and community commercial.
Okay. So, Ms. Rezanka, before you get going, so I guess if everyone that's affiliated with this item, could you please raise your hand? So now I'm assuming, and I know the definition of that word, everyone wants to speak, correct? Well, hold on. Because what I'm going to do is I will give each of you 2 minutes to speak on this item, or if you would like to go out in the lobby and pick one person, and we'll take however many people there was here times 2, and you can have that much time to speak on the item. Because we just don't want to hear it's lowering the value of our land, or, you know, my horse can't cross the canal, or it's an increase in traffic, or et cetera, et cetera. We don't want it to be repetitive. You know, because if everyone has the same issue with the item, I will get right back to you, ma'am. That's why I'm saying I'll give you an opportunity to go in the lobby, and if everyone agrees, pick one person to speak about it, and we'll do that.
Sir, I'm the president of Deer Run, and we've done this already yesterday, so we're prepared for one speaker, if you allow us the time to do that.
All right, if everyone would raise their hand again, and let me do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12 times 2 is 24. You got 30 minutes. Is that fair enough?
Please, we won't need that much.
Thank you. Because we get paid big money to do this. We all volunteer our time, but anyhow, we do that because we love our county.
That's why he wants to try.
So, all right. Well, Miss Kim, if you know the deal, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Kim Rezanka. I am with Lacey Lyons Rezanka, 1290 Rockledge, Florida. I'm here on behalf of Sunterra Communities, who's in partnership with Gen Florida 48 LLC, which is the property owner. We are here on the large-scale amendment, comp plan amendment. With me are Jimmy Dunn and Dan Edwards with Sunterra Communities, if you have questions. Also, the engineer of record is Poulos and Bennett, and with me is Lance Bennett and Andrew Ivy, and also planner Jesse Anderson, who's with Poulos and Bennett. He was formerly the Assistant Growth Management Director at Palm Bay. Also, the transportation engineer? Yes. James Taylor with Kimley Horn is here as well. I have provided everyone with the PowerPoint. We weren't sure if this was going to make it because we just sent it in this morning, but also there's some fine writing on there that you might want to see, and so we handed it out to everyone so you can go along as we're going through. We had a community meeting last Wednesday, and 98%, 95% of this is information that they have already seen. So this is what we plan to go through. Okay. The location of this is South Brevard County. It's about 3.5 miles from the county line. It's on Babcock Street, bordered on the north by Willowbrook, and it's west of Babcock Street. It is 1,109 acres, a little over 1,109 acres. We're seeking a future land use to allow a mixed-use development. PUD application has been submitted, but it is not on the agenda for today. The request is for Res 4, limited to 3 units an acre. Some of you remember there used to be a directive 3. The county doesn't do that anymore, but the PUD will limit it to 3 units to acre. Engineering's not complete, so we don't know for sure if we can even get 3 units to the acre. But the future land use for Res 4 is 1,082.57 acres, and seeking community commercial on 27.33 acres on Babcock Street. It's 398,000 square foot, intended to be retail type services for the residents here and the surrounding residents. More detailed for the location in yellow, that is the property that we're seeking to change the future land use. As you can see, it is somewhat squished between Palm Bay city limits, and Deer Run is to the south of the property, and Willowbrook Street is to the north. Between Willowbrook Street and the property, there is a 100-foot drainage ditch. There's a 120-foot right-of-way of Willowbrook Street, and then there is a strip of land to the south of the ditch that is 150 feet. Some of you may call it a spite strip, but this is to stop any annexation into Palm Bay. This is owned by James Satori and Jarrick Holdings LLC, which is a Santori property. They also own, Jarrick property also owns all the property. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this. This is the strip I'm talking about right along Willowbrook that's owned by Jarrick. It's about 250 feet. Well, yeah. And then all of this property, all the way to St. John's River Water Management District property, is owned by Jarrick. And to the north up here is Rolling Meadow Ranch. It's a little over 1,300 acres. This is the property owned by Andrew, I can never say his name right. Machada, yes, that de-annexed from Palm Bay back into the county, if you all may remember that. This is a challenging project. This is why we need to change to Res 4. As mentioned in the legislation report prepared by staff and the staff comments, there are current deficiencies in infrastructure, but all have solutions. Even the staff report says there are potential solutions. The engineers and experts are here today and will explain the solutions and here to answer any questions. The transportation infrastructure will be dealt with, the school deficiency, the water and sewer deficiency, all have been discussed with the various entities, and as you're all aware, proportionate fair share requires that capacities be and concurrencies be met. What's not in the staff comments but in SunTerra's response, which is in your packet, is a review of all the other large-scale developments in a 2-mile radius of this proposed project. And most of these proposed projects have greater density than what's being proposed here. There's nothing in administrative policy that requires you to look just at Brevard County properties. I looked and looked and looked, and it's just surrounding development. Also, too, I did forget to mention, if you look up, this is where St. John's Heritage Parkway intersects with Babcock. And that's what's causing all this development, and there's the public's going in right there. And that's about 0.6 miles north of the project. So development is coming to this area.
Oh, no, it's not coming. It's there.
It's there. All right. St. John's Heritage Parkway from I-95 West links Emerald Lake, Cypress Bay, and Waterstone development. So that is what's going in there right now. SunTerra Lakes, go back to the concept plan, the bubble plan as it was. The proposed development is for 3,246 units, 398,000 square feet of commercial. That's the red along Babcock. It says phase 11, but that's just to designate it as the commercial area. It will have open space of 468 acres of open space, 140 acres of active, 328 of passive. Assuming this is approved by Brevard County and comes back, the PUD will be in front of you sometime in the fall, early fall, hopefully. So just to let you know what those colors are, the light yellow is the residential, the medium green is passive recreation, the darker green is active recreation, and then the really dark green is wetlands. This property has about 114 acres of wetlands. 94 of them will be preserved. Approximately 20 will be impacted in correspondence with the county requirements. And the orange coloring is the impacted wetlands. The light blue is stormwater, and the dark blue is lake active recreation. The big pond on the west there, that's part of an existing burrow pit that will be turned into an active recreation site, and it'll be amenitized for the residents. There's also walking trails throughout here, and it's intended that some of these parks will be open to the public, not just for the residents. That's still in the planning stage. We did have a community meeting last Wednesday. It was the first time many of the residents knew about this project. And so we had a virtual option. There's no place to hold a community meeting that far south, so it was at the Comfort Inn on Malabar Road. There were approximately 23 people that were in attendance and 21 attend virtually. We ended the formal meeting about 8:15, but people stayed around and the engineers stayed around to speak with them. The concerns and responses is as you would expect. Traffic, school, fire and police response, density, consistency, and compatibility. With that, I'm going to address the first issue of traffic, and James Taylor will come up to address that.
Mr. Taylor, also, could you state your name and address?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. For the record, James Taylor with Kimley Horn & Associates, transportation engineer by trade at 200 South Orange Avenue, or downtown Orlando.
Thank you.
What you see on the screen here is the anticipated study area for a traffic impact analysis that we're going to be conducting for the purpose of the county and all the permits that go along with the site, as well as the access. The blue on the outside is the anticipated 5-mile radius around the site that we'll be studying. You see some red dots there indicating study area intersections, some red roadway segments showing where the traffic is to a point that's significant enough to include those items in the study area as well, and then some blue dots along the frontage of the property indicating probable access points. You also see some percentages on some of those roadways, and these are the anticipated percentages that come out of the local travel demand model for this district and the DOT, and basically what it's showing is the anticipated traffic from the site is intended to be more or less equally split north-south, a little bit more to the north as people are getting up to John Heritage Parkway and then onto the interstate. Also some on Minko Road as well as Babcock Street. Oh, is that my own slide? Okay. So today, what we've done for the purpose of the future land use amendment is we've conducted a study that's prescribed by the state to show a short-term and a long-term impact for the trips that are anticipated from this proposed amendment. And what it indicated in that study out to year 2035 for the short term and then 2045 for the long term is that Babcock Street from Grant Road down to Miko Road is anticipated to exceed its capacity. As you know, it's 2 lanes out there today. It's operating about 40% of its capacity based on today's counts, but this project, as well as the other growth that Ms. Kim showed on the screen earlier, is anticipated to increase that to the point that it exceeds the 2-lane capacity of that roadway. And then as we come in for additional permits, if this goes forward, is we will do that larger scale transportation study that shows how the intersections, the roadways, and those sorts of things all need to get mitigated as prescribed by the state and also the local requirements. And I'll be standing by with any questions.
Sir, 1 second before a question for the engineer.
James, I think I read where it would be level of service D, and at what point would that occur, assuming the numbers that we're looking at today?
Sure. Well, Babcock Street, if that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about, that's actually going to be a level service F
Okay.
if that roadway is not wide enough 4 lanes.
Okay,
In the future.
but do we have a preliminary number of what
The
the
timing?
units would be when that transpires? I mean, that's in your program, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That will be a part of that future traffic study because as we've talked about mitigating for the capacity items, that'll be one of the things that obviously the county won't want to proceed past a certain amount of development until the
Okay.
capacity is available.
For conversation purposes today, if this transpires, how far south will you go with the modifications and changes on Babcock?
Sure. The deficiency that we're showing, not just because of this project, but because the other growth of the area extends from Miko all the way to Grant. So
Okay.
that's about a 3-mile segment.
Okay.
The mitigation for this particular developer is prescribed by the state, either a proportionate share contribution for their impacts or a physical improvement, not the whole 3 miles, but something that equates to the proportionate share amount.
Okay. So just for conversations, you might just be a 3-lane. And the center bi-directional, that.
Sure. I mean, that would not mitigate for the entire deficiency.
Okay.
It really does need some additional capacity.
Okay.
The bidirectional left turn lane that you're talking about gives it a little bit more capacity, but not the capacity that's needed out there.
Those are mine, thanks.
Thank you.
Good, real quick.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I remember this correctly. Babcock from Malabar Road to the county line is all county.
Correct.
So we're only dealing with one entity.
You
It's
got
not
it.
multi-jurisdictional.
You got
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
How well we know, Bruce.
And this issue obviously came up at the community meeting. And although we don't know for sure at what time it will have to be widened, but it will have to be widened with all the growth that's in the area. So just to look at transportation impact fees for this project alone will be approximately $16.5 million. And then the issue came up with schools, because this is pretty far south. And the school impact fees will also be about $16.5 million for this project between the retail and the commercial. We did a school capacity. Trying to remember where I am in this. Oh, not yet. We did submit to the school board for a school capacity letter, and the school concurrency did show that there would be issues with the adjacent school capacity, and there would be a shortfall of available capacity for elementary and middle schools. However, they did note that for the next 5 years, the intermediate growth could be accommodated by putting in portable classrooms. I talked to Karen Black at length. There are at least 5 sites that could serve this area that the school board owns or that's being dedicated. Ashton Park, which is going into the south and east, it's off, oh, I did it wrong again. Sorry about that. I'm not used to having 2 pointers. Ashton Park, which is going down right about in this area, it's right down in this area, I think. They are putting in a 30-acre site for an elementary K through 8, which would also be available to serve this community. So we understand that school capacity could be an issue, but Florida statutes provide for proportionate fair share, and so any deficiencies would be addressed as the time requires it to be. Another issue that came up was fire and police response. And again, that will be addressed as necessary. This is served by Palm Bay Fire Station 4 under an interlocal agreement. And there's also a fire station near Miko Road closer to the east. But anything that is necessary would be accommodated, and anything that needs to be addressed for fire and emergency response, because obviously Sunterra wants everyone to be safe and they don't want to impact anyone with fire and emergency response. As to density and capacity, compatibility. I wanted to bring this up before Jesse comes up. This is the perimeter cross section of the minimum buffers and what the the developer is intending to do and would be part of the PUD. As I mentioned, there's quite a large buffer to the north between the right-of-way, the spite strip. You also have a 100-foot canal that is around the entire property except on Babcock. And then the developer has agreed to leave 50 foot of a buffer in a natural state. So the minimum buffer from property to property line would be 150 feet. At the community meeting, they also agreed that if it is a sparse 50-foot natural buffer, they will improve it. They will make it much more solid to make an opaque buffer. So that's something that you would hear at the PUD stage. It would be part of the PUD conditions. Next, Jesse Anderson will come up to explain the other developments and their density in the area. And again, these are in Palm Bay except for Rolling Meadows, although it shows, yeah, Rolling Meadows, which is in Brevard County. It's 2 units to the acre, and it is adjacent to this site.
Good evening, board members. Jesse Anderson, 1340 Tradition Circle, Melbourne, Florida. Specifically, yes, I am a local, relatively speaking. Sorry for anyone that sees that as too far away. But, you know, I did work for Palm Bay, as they had mentioned, as the Assistant Director of Growth Management, and I do reside in Brevard County. This is an area that has come to be a place of my heart. And when speaking on it, it's actually a joy to be speaking on this type of project today. This project is situated in a very interesting location. It is very much so surrounded by the city of Palm Bay in a broad stance, except for where you have conservation lands over to its eastern side. And along with our parcel, of course, we have the Deer Run community. And so I am not at all trying to exclude them, but looking at the broader picture as you see on your screens today, much of the city has encapsulated parts of this, and then larger developments in the county that are coming in the future have also started to encompass the area surrounding this development. Now, when we look into compatibility in a Florida statute stance, we're looking at compatibility in a term that we are saying that it can coexist in a relative proximity to each other in a stable fashion over time so that no use or condition is unduly negatively impacted. Now, yes, there's going to be a concentration by some members in the crowd today on the unduly negatively impacted aspect, but what we need to understand in this entire statement today is that is a stable fashion over time. And today we've also made sure to convey to you that this project is intended to go through the Planned Unit Development District zoning regulation standards. That, as you know, requires phasing development. It requires us to go through processes that actually have more regulations in line that allow for us to ensure that we have different types of compatibility through us being able to slowly develop the property. Instead of this being just simply a residential 4 where it would go straight into preliminary subdivision plans and then be developed straight up, it's going through the Planned Unit Development Zoning District so that we can phase it and appropriately lay out the schematics for this development so that it does not unduly negatively impact anyone over time. Instead, we'll ensure that development throughout its time period will be in concert with the Land Development Code for Brevard County, as well as all the interjurisdictional entities that do oversee many of these processes, such as the Water Management District and so forth, that'll see the construction plans as they come through, again, as phases. Because at this over 1,000-acre project, you're not going to see a single subdivision construction plan come through. You're going to see, if I'm not mistaken, 11 different phases throughout this construction plan process. And during that process, depending on what the needs are of the market, certain portions of it may be developed earlier than later. That, for instance, could potentially be the commercial if it was demanded earlier. Alternatively, if there is a point in time when the roadway needs to be expanded because of these increasing amounts of subdivisions coming through, it'll be determined during one of the subdivision construction plan routine evaluations by your staff, who will identify that it has gone over capacity and then revert it back to saying that Babcock widening will need to happen before any approvals commence. Beyond that, we're looking at the properties that are surrounding us. Going from the western side, we have Rolling Meadows. Rolling Meadows, yes, is an RES2, which is a little less dense than what we're looking at in the RES4, but mind you, we are looking to cap it at 3 dwelling units per acre, and they could potentially go up to 2.5 with a PUD in their own entitled future land use. So we're only looking at a half a dwelling unit per acre difference at that point in time between a county designated area and our proposed future land use. Beyond that, we also have the likes of Emerald Lakes. Sorry, before I go into that, it's Rolling Meadows. Then we have Waterstone moving into the city. Waterstone has low-density residential in the city of 5 dwelling units per acre, high-density residential of 20 units per acre, and a substantial amount of commercial. Cypress Bay, going further to the east, actually has a Publix, as was mentioned earlier today. So we are already seeing a food chain go to this area of the county, which is a very exciting feeling. And beyond that, we actually have Emerald Lakes, which is going to span into 3,760 dwelling units and over 2.8 million square feet of non-commercial or non-residential activity, mainly being commercial. Ashton Park, a little bit further south, is also expected to have over 1 million square feet of commercial. So the point of this is that 2-mile buffer, and that is what that circle does realistically convey to, is that's the 2-mile buffer around this property. That's going to be an entire new community itself. And right now we have the ability to plan for it the correct way. We have the ability to make sure that we're going through it in a planned development standpoint, which the likes of Emerald Lakes, the likes of Ashton Park, the likes of Cypress Bay, Waterstone, these are all planned developments. Why would we not want to follow suit and make sure we have the planned region that we're looking for, instead of the most of Palm Bay where I was previously? And you know, I love it, but it's sprawled out. It does not have much sustainable development. And as you've heard many other developers say before you, rooftops do matter to an extent. I won't argue that more than anyone else, because I am a planner at heart. But because of that, to get the infrastructure into place, to get all the services, to get the commercial, all of those aspects, you do need a certain level of residences to support that. And that today is what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that we become a middle component where we are buffering between our neighbors that are in the county, but also being a transition between the city to the north and the city to the south that we are unfortunately juxtaposed between. And that's one reason why we actually see ourselves as compatible. And then real quick, just to lastly sum this up beyond compatibility, is the fact that we are looking at an area that we're trying to prevent sprawl, inefficient urbanization. So if we continue to look at a 1.5 dwelling units per acre or less type of development, it's not going to have the ability to support those services, that infrastructure that needs to desperately come down here to help these folks in the future. So yes, in the short term, it may not impact them greatly, but in the long term, if we don't develop this area in a more conducive and sustainable manner, they'll never get to have those infrastructure benefits that will come with proper sustainable development that can come through PUD in this area at Res 4.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I have a question for your planner,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Since you used to work for Palm Bay, if this was in the city of Palm Bay, what would the required commercial component be for a project like this?
The required commercial component for a PUD?
Yes, for a
It
project
would
of
be,
this size.
so I believe they are currently trying to amend that section of their code because there is a conflict in it. There is a 20% restriction where they are supposed to have at least 20% commercial, but they have realized that that was accompanied to the gross area of the project, which is a little bit more difficult to actually encompass. For instance, 20% of 1,100 is over 200 acres of commercial. We don't even have 200 acres of commercial fronting Babcock Street, so we don't have an arterial roadway that's going to make conducive sense for that. So what they're actually trying to change it to is more aligned with the Bayfront Mixed-Use District, which is 15% of or 20% of the gross floor area of the first floor of all units. So that would be all of our units' first floor area ratio to determine how much commercial we would need. And we're providing over, how many acres again, I'm sorry? 38? 27 acres of commercial, 27 acres of commercial.
That would be, what, about 2.7%?
Of the gross area or of the first floor?
Yeah, gross area.
Of the gross floor, of the gross area, possibly around that. I don't have that right in front of me.
And isn't it, if it's over so many acres, I think it's over 100, it has to be 25%?
Again, that portion of the code has not been something that anyone has successfully worked with. I actually was somebody that assisted in writing that, and we realized right afterwards that we overshot by doing it on gross acreage. It should have been based off of the proportionality of the site rather than the gross acreage of the site. So
Right.
asking for gross acreage ends up over asking on commercial.
For PUD.
Yeah.
Can you comment on transitional zoning that you have? What what density you have to the north and what density you have to the south, and how this falls in the middle, and how that would meet transitional zoning requirements?
Well, today we're not speaking on zoning. We are speaking on a future
Well,
land
it's
use.
density, transitional density.
Transitional density. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I didn't want to, step into the next
Same
level
concept,
of everything.
different language.
So transitional density. Well, we're not looking at transitions of density. We're looking at a transition of a general area. There is nowhere, as Ms. Rezanka had mentioned, there is nowhere limiting the specific area to those abutting the property, which is why you want to look at a more holistic region. If you were thinking about that specific area alone, where is their commercial? Where do they use their services? Where are all these compatible things that they would need? We're helping bring things to this area to bolster it as well as be self-sustainable. So our transition is to reduce our density down to 3 dwelling units per acre, which, as I had mentioned, is very similarly compatible with Willowbrook, which is Rolling Meadows, which is Res 2 with a PUD that can be 2.5. So we're only a half a dwelling unit per acre different at that point in time from a compatible, further away from arterial road residential development. So the fact that we're abutting an arterial roadway with better access does usually progress towards a higher density than that of an area that is further away from arterial access points that would need a lot more effort to get citizens into an area that has access to commercial nodes and other services.
Okay. But the simple answer is it's Res 2 to the north and Res 1 to 2.5 to the south, and you're asking for Res 4 in the middle.
So we're asking for Res 4 with a restriction to Res 3 in a vicinity of this area, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bruce, just to clarify, up to the north, there's a portion of the property that, on the other side of the canal, that's Res 2, but the majority of the property to the north is Res 2.5.
Yeah. Res 1 to 2.5. Right, but there is Res 2, yeah, thank you, thank you.
Also, just to let you know, Jesse Anderson got his PhD at University of Florida and taught this for a while. In case he was very informative and very like a professor.
Go Gators.
The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is the utilities, and the utilities will be coming from Palm Bay. There is a letter in your packet, but there was an updated letter sent that didn't make it to your packet that explains more how the utilities. Palm Bay has done a will serve letter and explains in detail. I'm not as well versed in this. If you have questions after you see this, we can have the engineers speak to it, but I did want to hand this out as well.
Thank you.
Kim, I think the one we got in our packets were, they didn't have the capacity.
Correct, and they don't, but this explains how they will. Finally, just to go through the process, which Mr. Ball did early in the presentation, before our presentation. We did have the community meeting. This is the local planning agency. It is intended to go to Board of County Commissioners on May 2nd. If it approves, it will be transmitted to the state for review. That could take 45 to 60 days to come back. Then they have to advertise it again. So county commission hearing would be sometime in August or September. Hopefully at that same time. Prior to that time, if it comes back positively, we would come to you with the PUD. So the PUD and future land use amendment would go at the same time to county commission, September or October timeframe. So this is just the first step. It's going to go up to Tallahassee. Every agency is going to get to look at it, and then it will come back to make comments and to have the county address comments, the developer address comments. And with that, we're open for more questions.
Mr. Ron.
What size lots are they going to be?
The lots will be smaller lots, anywhere from 0.1 acre to 0.16 of an acre. They'll be smaller lots, but they don't know yet for sure, especially around the lake. They anticipate that perhaps the lake with its amenities will have larger lots.
That's interesting. And what price range are the houses that you're expecting to sell?
It's to be determined. I heard them comment to the community meeting that entry-level houses now are about $325,000. So, but again, this, I mean, you're talking home construction starting in a year and a half, and who knows what costs will be at that point.
A year and a half?
I know.
That's good.
I'm always optimistic.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. John.
That's optimistic.
What's the developer's experience in developments of this size?
We got to stick with zoning here
But don't,
for the density
Can't-
purposes for this. Huh?
Land use, yeah.
Land use.
yeah, well, I want to make sure that they know what they're doing.
And this
Well-
question came up at the
That's not our
community.
job.
No.
This came up at the community meeting, and they did, and if you go to their website, they've done many large ones. I can't remember the names of them now, and I apologize. Harmony is one of them. You'd have to come up because they can't hear you.
Well, staff, help me if I don't want to get out of line because I promised these people they could speak. We need to focus on the density and land use. I mean, developers experience, I mean, we're not even, this has to go to the state, then turn around and come back, and then come back to us again, correct?
That is correct. This is a two-step process.
So, yeah, this is a comp plan, the land use and density. So if we could kind of focus on that, board, I sure would appreciate it.
I'm not sure I want to be involved in qualifying every developer that ever came in. We've been here for a couple of weeks. No, it's not our business.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, well, hearing that, do we have any other questions from the board? Because I'm going to turn it out to the audience.
I've got one and I didn't know when to ask it. Why didn't we bring this in to Palm Bay?
We can't. Because of that spite strip to the north. We do not touch Palm Bay. Because of that spite strip
Yeah.
and the canal and the roadway. There's a tiny little strip up here, but it doesn't touch. And it wouldn't be sufficient anyway.
The road, the fact that the roads, the counties doesn't, and it maintains its contiguousy through there.
No, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
I've left a utility letter up here for Miss Teresa, the HOA president, but I left one for her too.
Oh,
'cause
okay.
I don't know that they've seen that. It wasn't in the packet. And I actually didn't see it till this morning, but it had been sent to the county.
All right. And Miss Teresa, is it Teresa? Teresa, I am sorry. But I even added some extra minutes to your time.
Good, we got another person came too.
Well, wait a minute now. If we're going to get multiple speakers,
No.
just you.
Yes, she was at the meeting yesterday too. Is this,
Okay.
can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. And you just need to state your name and address, and I'm going to
Sure.
start the clock here.
Okay. My name is Teresa Torciello. I live at 267 Deer Run Road in Palm Bay, and I am the president of the Deer Run Homeowners Association, which is an equestrian development. Now, I do have a statement, but listening to all of the discussion that was going on here, I have some notes that I'd like to say first before the statement. And one of the interesting things was, ironically, on the way here, there was an accident at the end of their property, Willowbrook and Babcock, 18-wheeler and two vehicles. I was trying to get around the 18-wheeler and almost got into a head-on because the people were just speeding by. I called 911 and went into an argument with the dispatcher. Well, is it on Babcock or is it on Willowbrook? Because we own Babcock, we don't own Willowbrook. I'm not sure, I'm not part of the accident. Yeah, but is it Willowbrook or Babcock? Because I can't send Palm Bay unless we know. Ma'am, I wasn't part of the accident, but there's an 18-wheeler blocking traffic and the school's getting ready to let out and we're going to have problems here and more people are going to be injured. But I don't know what to do because we don't own it. After about 3 minutes, she finally gave me over to the county, who said, well, we're not sure what it is, so we called the state trooper. It was an accident that went on for over 20 minutes, and we had no police because they were arguing over jurisdiction. I thought it was very ironic to be coming here about this and already having the problems just because of what's going on down there. Rolling Hills was annexed back to the county, so yes, there's nothing contiguous to Palm Bay as that was stated, but there are current deficiencies in the infrastructure, they said, but they have solutions. I'm sorry, I didn't hear solutions. What I heard was $16 million for roads and $16 million for schools, and that told me the solution is the taxpayers. The 2-mile radius of projects that were discussed with greater density are not Brevard County, and they do not butt up against Deer Run. They do not butt up against the Miko Sanctuary that's across the street. They are farther out. And that density traffic that they've already done is a nightmare. If you drive in South Babcock, you will see it's already a nightmare. I'm not quite sure what they're talking about when they talk about Emerald Lakes, because that was swapped, so there's a new name for it, so I'm not sure what that is. The active recreational lake, at the meeting last week, we asked about that. Is it going to be skiing? What's it going to be? And it was, oh, no, it's not a recreational, is what was stated. A recreational lake means more traffic than just what's in there. People are going to go to the lake. The traffic impact of a 5-mile radius, that impacts all of the Palm Bay developments. And we were told they didn't have that. We asked if Babcock was already a Service D road, which we knew it was, but we were told they didn't know. So it was interesting to hear that it is a level D, which we knew, and it will be an F without the enlargement of Babcock. Also, the school capacity, I'm going to get into that. I've got the capacity. This talking about a school in Ashton is something that isn't even there. We are at full capacity in South Brevard. When I moved here 20 years ago, Westside Elementary was here before sunrise. They were at 165% capacity. We had 20 portables. The children suffered. So having all these developments means we get to make our children pay once again. And you know as well as I do, where are they getting the teachers for these portables? We don't have them. Sorry, I just want to go through my notes. All right, the compatibility and unduly negative aspect. Well, we have a negative aspect. We are on 2.5 acres minimum. Some of our neighbors have 8 acres. They have doubles. So when you look out of a 5-acre lot, and we do have members who are actually in this audience who have a 5-acre lot that will go up against this. And you're going to see possibly 30 houses looking back at you. And I will get into how I got that number, because what was stated about how many per acre is not what we heard the other night. We also have to worry about the trucks. So if they're going to do it in 11 phases, how many years are we going to have to deal with trucks? If you drive down Babcock, you will be run off the road at least once a week from the dump trucks that are there, that are flying there. We have police officers all the time sitting there giving out tickets, and it doesn't stop. So if we have years of phases, now they did say there'd be no input or output. Well, that's more or less what? The input or output of the developing. But once these builders start, we have to have base, we have to have trusses, we have to have concrete, we have to have machines. That's going to go on for how many years? That doesn't make us safe, and it's not compatible. And that's not short term if it's over 11 phases, minimum 11 years. Deer Run is a PUD. We are a planning unit development. Brevard County future land development made it 1 per 2.5 acres. Why change it now? South Brevard, you can't find lots like ours where we are going up in price without any more developments because nobody can find land like ours. If you look at what the Deer Run homes are valued, they've already skyrocketed. And we have people who are constantly knocking on our doors to sell. Why didn't the developers look at that? We asked this question last week. Did you even look to see about a 1 per acre, 1 per 2.5? No, we don't do that. Why not? That's what's in the area. And I believe they purchased Harmony. That wouldn't be one to look at, by the way. They told us they purchased it, so it's the new, only look at the new. Also, the half-acre difference at Rolling Meadows, I don't see why they can't do the same to keep our county contiguous, to keep it the same across the board. They said that there is a 2-mile buffer in Palm Bay property, and it's all talking about the developments, but they didn't mention, again, Deer Run or the Micco Scrubs. We are their neighbors, the direct neighbors, so we're the ones that are going to be affected. And our infrastructure with stores, I've been there for 20 years. I haven't complained about having to drive to Winn-Dixie on Micco or Publix on Bayside. We love seeing our neighborhood the way it is. We don't have a problem with anybody coming in, but we want to keep it in the lifestyle that we're used to. And now I'll get to my statement. And the lack of participants here, we only knew about this last week. Yes, they had the meeting. We found out last minute for that meeting. And so we showed up there. We showed up on Zoom. We do intend to be more at the commissioners meeting. But we did not find out. Your courtesy letters that were sent out actually didn't get to the homeowners until Friday. So most didn't even know about this. So Deer Run is not opposed to neighboring developments, but we are greatly concerned about upholding compatibility with our existing lifestyle. The proposed Sunterra zoning request will not be compatible with Deer Run. As you know, Deer Run is zoned agriculture with a 1 home per 2.5 acre parcel. Sunterra wants you to rezone them to R4 with the commitment of building a maximum of 3 dwellings per acre. This, of course, is with a density count. However, the reality is that there will be 3,200 plus homes that they plan on building. It's not 3 homes per acre. It's more like 13 homes per acre. We stick with real math. At the meeting last week, Sunterra explained that some of the houses will be on 40 by 80 plots. That is 13 homes per acre. Obviously, that is not compatible with Deer Run. 2 sides of Sunterra will be up against Deer Run. No one on 2.5 or more acres wants to look out their yard and see 32 houses staring back at them. 32 homes with an average of 4 people per home is 128 people per Deer Run backyard, whereas we have 4 per 2.5 acres. There is a major noise difference in that. Not compatible. The proposed Sunterra zoning request will not be compatible with the EEL program that is their neighbor to the east. The Environmentally Endangered Lands EEL program acquires, protects, and maintains environmentally endangered for resources, stewardship, and ecosystem management. EEL protects the rich biological diversity of Brevard County for future generations. The Micco Scrub Sanctuary protects 1,322 acres of Brevard's remaining scrubby flatwoods, mesic flatwoods habitat. This mosaic of seasonal marshes and dry flatwoods shelter many indigenous species of plants and animals that cannot be found anywhere else in Brevard County. These indigenous species and endangered animals are right across the street from where Sunterra wants to build 3,200 homes and a 4-lane highway. That is not compatible with our environment. We're also concerned about the infrastructure in the area. How can Babcock withstand another 6,000 plus vehicles? Each home averaging 2 vehicles. We were told that Babcock would have to widen to 4 lanes, as they stated. When we asked who will pay for this, that was an unknown. Sunterra developers would hope that other developers would pitch in as well as the county, which means taxpayers. When we asked about water and sewage, we were informed that Sunterra has a letter from Palm Bay that they are willing to serve them. We all know that there is already a capacity issue in Palm Bay with their water and sewage, and that they are currently 2 years behind. Your staff has the letter stating exactly that. Palm Bay does not have the capacity, but they're willing, but they can't. What about fire departments, police departments? The county has no plans that I saw on building a new fire department in South Brevard, although we could use one. A new police station, our closest county deputies are stationed on Malabar Road. We asked about health care. We were told that is a capacity issue that the county oversees. I can tell you we're at capacity in our local hospitals, and if you try to make an appointment with any specialist, we're 4 to 6 months out right now. We asked about schools, and we were told Brevard County owns land on Willowbrook, and a new school for capacity would be in 5 years. That doesn't work since Sunrise Elementary, which I personally fought for to get there, is at capacity and it's frozen, meaning no student is allowed to add to that school right now. The backup is West Side, also at capacity and frozen. Southwest Middle is also at capacity. Bayside High is at capacity and frozen. The backup high school, Heritage, is at 99% capacity. Palm Bay High is at 96% capacity. So redistricting is not going to resolve our issues. Worse than that is currently there are 275 open teacher positions in Brevard County, and that does not include the bus drivers. We can't hire teachers today for the students that we have. We have no room for the students in the developments that are currently building out in Southeast Palm Bay. We have lots of them, including 5,000 on Mico that wasn't discussed. But we're going to allow more developments with 1,000 more students in an area that is currently at capacity without an actual plan. We spoke about the berms between the properties. Once the pepper trees are removed, there is no natural berm. Some areas will have 50 feet between the property, which includes the canal. So it's down, so you can see straight across. Some will have 100, but we will see into the backyards of 15 to 30 homes per our backyard. And we'll hear the noise of 15 plus homes. We also discussed stormwater drainage. Surprisingly to us was the statement that Centerra will pump into the Satilli Canal. There is currently a $3.57 million stormwater park being built to help capture the pollution from the Satilli prior to it entering the Sebastian River, which is a major tributary to the Indian River Lagoon. The project isn't even completed. Taxpayers haven't seen the benefit of creating a stormwater park, and the lagoon, as you know, and the Sebastian River is horribly polluted. Yet we're going to add the stormwater from 3,200 homes back into the Satilli. And if they don't pump it into the Satilli, then they go into Satori's Lake, which the county had to put a pump into Satori's Lake to prevent Deer Run from flooding every time it rains. Additional stormwater from an 1,100-acre parcel of land will flood Deer Run. Deer Run would love for this area to be zoned R1, 1 home per 2.5 acres to have continuity, to enjoy the beautiful wildlife and peaceful setting. We all have seen the county's plans in this area for years, and we love it, which is why many of us moved there. Without proper plans to protect Centerra's only developed neighbor, which is Deer Run, from excessive traffic, noise, and flooding, and not having substantial plans to avoid the lack of police, fire, schools, and health care, we are requesting that this zoning request be denied. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I do. You still have 15 minutes. From the board to everyone there, we want to thank you for doing that. Oftentimes, we give the opportunity for one person to speak, and I don't think you missed anything. So that way we don't have to hear it,
Exactly. And
repetitively.
we wanted to respect your time and not be repetitive.
And vice versa.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Kim, would you like to come back up and address what you just heard?
Good evening again. Good evening. Not yet. Good afternoon. Kim Rezanka on behalf of Sunterra Lakes. Just a few comments. I mean, again, this is future land use. We're not at engineering stage. It's not a zoning.
Right.
Florida statute, Brevard County Code, Brevard County Comp Plan provides per proportionate fair share, 163.3180. So we can't build anything unless we make sure that we have fire, police, roads, schools, those type of things. And the impact fees help pay for that. That's why I mentioned the $16 million for transportation and $16 million for schools. So again, we're far, far afield. Yes, we did explain, the engineers have looked at drainage. They know the way the water flows and where it's going to go. But they also explained that post-development cannot exceed pre-development water runoff. So that is the standard that the county abides by. So this development cannot legally impact and flood their property. They did tell us about their flooding problems, and of course, we'll take that into consideration, the engineers, when they're developing this. But there are no fully engineered plans yet. This is only future land use. As to the schools, and I know it's not an issue because we'll make it work. And the school board, I even got an invitation today to meet with all the other developers in the area next week to talk about where these schools. They do have many, many sites. They have a high school to the north of here. They have Warrior Avenue, a charter school is going in near Sunrise Elementary. Ashton Park, when it starts building, will build the school. But I also did want to state in the August 22nd of 2023 capacity determination letter, they did state that they can indeed maintain for 5 years what they have. They also have the Sunrise Elementary School limited or utilization, and for the 2023-2024 school year, it's at 84% capacity. It won't be at 100% capacity to 2027, 2028. So that's in the record, and I understand it probably looks like it's at capacity because I remember when my kids were in elementary school and it seemed like there was never enough space. I mean, they had a cart, art in a cart. They didn't have an art class anymore. They had a cart that went from classroom to classroom. So I understand that, and the school board's very aware of it. They're wanting to work with everyone and to do what they can. So I just wanted to bring that issue. Yes, proper plans are needed, and the potential solutions are you build the infrastructure as you need them, and you make sure the infrastructure is there as the different phases come on board. And the developer is committed to do that. They can't go forward without the proper concurrency and capacity. The county just won't let them.
Right.
But again, that's going on down the path. And so with that, I appreciate your time. We're here to answer any questions that have come up. We have engineers, we have traffic engineers, we have planners. And I appreciate your time, and I ask for approval of the change to the future land use.
Well, we just need someone on your team for future land use intensity, not all this other stuff right now. So for the comp plan.
Oh, that's Jesse Anderson. I mean,
Okay.
and that was Professor Anderson
Right.
speaking to you. So.
All right, anyone from the board have any questions for Ms. Rezanka?
That was comments. I don't have any questions.
All right, let's have some comments.
Thank you. I really appreciate what you said and how you said it. That was very professional, and you covered everything very well. I won't say I agree with everything you said, but it was very, very well done. My problem with this, I'm not against the project. I think something needs to be done here, but my problem with this, and I have to be consistent of things I've said since I got on this board, how many years ago, Henry?
I don't want to date myself.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, you know, I've always preached transitional density, transitional zoning, to go from what you could say is Res 2 to the north. It's about half and half, Res 2, Res 1 to 2.5, and Res 1 to 2.5 to the south.
Right.
And then to spike up in the middle at 4, regardless of the BDP that might be coming. It doesn't, to me, it's inconsistent with what we've approved here in the past. And it would be definitely inconsistent with anything I've agreed to in the past. We do a lot of PUDs. I'm an engineer. I've worked with these people on other projects, and you know, we get this feedback that compatibility and consistency all the time. And I'll be honest, I don't see it here. I've seen it. We've been forced to do it in a lot of places.
Yes, we have.
And it's probably going to be forced to do it if this thing ever gets to the point where it gets to the PUD. And there's a lot more things we can talk about, like lot size and all those things when it gets to PUD. But I'm not convinced that this is the right land use for this property. If this was in the city of Palm Bay, it would have a 25% commercial component. I don't even know if it would get approved in Palm Bay. I really don't know that, but I just really think that a realistic transitional land use needs to be applied here.
Since we're just
talking,
Bruce, would you feel comfortable with a 2?
Yeah, I would.
I hate to say it, but I'm thinking exactly like you, and maybe that's because we're old, you know. But to me, transitionally, I think that I feel much stronger about that than anything when I looked at this. And I didn't want to say much, but I know an awful lot about Waterstone. So I know about the interchange, I know about it all. But anyway, it just seemed to be much more suitable, and that's sort of my direction. Jeff, what's the thresholds now on a DRI? Is that over 1,000?
Over 50, oh, DRI.
It was based on the population of the county. I wouldn't tell you, and this is just speculation on my part, I would have to say that this would meet the thresholds for density if there was, because that legislation is long gone. It hasn't been around, I want to say, since 2015.
Probably a word a lot of people don't know, huh?
Yeah, but it's based on the population,
Yeah.
and from my recollection, that this property
Right.
would be considered a DRI.
That's all, Mr. Chairman, I got.
Ms. Rezanka, you want to come back to the podium, please, ma'am? Do you have any wiggle room?
That would be the developer. I don't speak for the developer, so you would need either Jimmy or Dan. But again, I mean, it's a Res 3. We've been told we can't put it in the county ordinance limiting it to Res 3, so that's going to be limited by the PUD.
Right.
And again, engineering's not been done yet, so it may be 2.5 units to the acre. And it may be an open space subdivision. So that would have to be.
So hypothetically, staff. we vote on this?
Hypothetically, you can make a recommendation to Res 2, and it could be forwarded onto the board for the board to, take in consideration what the applicant is requesting and what this board has done.
I'll make a recommendation that we recommend approval of this at a Res 2 land use.
And I'll second that.
With the community commercial.
Oh, and the community commercial for the commercial component.
And I'll agree to that.
So you're negotiable.
Well, there's just two of us.
I'm gonna stand on them real quick, see if she can needs to make a comment.
Take it to the board and see what they say.
Yeah.
We're listening to your recommendation.
Okay, we've got a motion by Bruce to go to a Res 2 with community commercial.
That's correct.
We got a second by Henry.
That's correct.
All right, board, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So that passed.
Thank you for your time.
All right. So staff, Debbie wanted to make a motion on something about, Okay, if we have no other comment, then we'll say meeting adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.